Well, it just goes to show you that the Cold War is over, and relations have certainly improved in some areas with Russia. But the game of espionage continues on for most all countries. Political leaders always want to know the behind-the-scenes story. Is what is being told to them across the diplomatic table the truth? So the Russians have continued spying in America, in England. It would appear as though American intelligence officers are still at work in Russia.
And even if people know in Washington and Moscow that there are layers and layers potentially behind this very public outing, are we aware of any distinction to be made or any analysis to be taken from the manner in which this man, Ryan Fogel, was outed, so to speak?
I think you can draw a few conclusions, having served in Moscow myself. Fortunately, I never got caught, so I didn't get to see the inside of their security service. But one thing from the preparation they had of the arrest scene and the videos and everything else, this wasn't where the FSB just got lucky one night following Mr. Fogel around. This was carefully prepared. It was probably an entrapment, a provocation from the get-go.
Why do you say that?
Had managed to get word. Had they just stumbled onto him while he was out wandering around Moscow late one night, they wouldn't have been so prepared with all of the number of people and the cameras, the layout on the table, the video that they've released. This would have been, I'm about 90% certain, right from the get-go, this was a provocation, i.e. the Russians do this because they want to know who are the CIA people, what's the MO that's being used these days. So in this letter, they certainly learned about the use of the Internet. This might be something new to them.
And they also learned about the amounts of money being offered. Is that fairly standard in your experience? And what kind of information would the CIA be hoping to glean?
Well, for that kind of money, this certainly wasn't some sergeant working down in the basement. If you're talking about $1 million a year, clearly whatever was said in the opening contact to the Americans would have certainly made clear that he was at least a senior official, perhaps in the FSB or the Foreign Service, the SVR, and that he had a lot of very important information. Responding to a volunteer like that is always considered very risky, and no one ever responds to most of such volunteers. So you got to think it's worth the candle to take the risk.